Okay, this is part 2 of our introduction to R and RStudio through the analysis of Scottish baby names. So if you haven't watched the first part, please go back and do that before watching this video. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to introduce you to the RMarkdown format for generating reports. And we're going to actually take what we've done with the baby names and we're going to actually produce a report including the graphs and compile it to, this is going to be a report in HTML, but you could also compile it to a PDF or Microsoft Word. Now, there are a couple things before we get started that I'd like to deal with. First of all, there's one thing that I just kind of ignored last time. When we loaded in the data the last time using the read_CSV function from the readr package, we got this parsing failure, and I just kind of ignored it and pushed through. But we should probably address it so that it doesn't give us any problems, or to make sure that it's not producing anything weird that we've missed. And it spit out the line where it was having this problem, which is basically, it's the very last line. It was encountering this text, which is a copyright, and actually not data. So what we can do is we can go back into that CSV file and get rid of those lines that are causing us trouble. I mean, there are other ways of doing it. You could change the read CSV. There's an argument in read CSV that allows you to only parse a certain number of lines in. So we could skip the last 2 lines, for instance. Or we can actually just go in the CSV and change that. So I'm just gonna go open the CSV file, and if you double click the CSV, it'll probably open it up in Excel. I don't have Excel. I have a kind of an open source version of a spreadsheet called LibreOffice, and it's going to give me some import stuff here. Just let me make sure that everything is appropriate. So I'll click OK. It should load it in. Okay, it's loading it in. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet here. I'm just going to go and change those last 2 lines, then I'll re-export the document. So those very last lines, I think, have problems. Here we go, toward the end. Oops. Okay, right here. See, there's a blank line followed by this crown copyright. And if we just delete those lines, and then save it as a CSV. Okay, save. Maybe we don't want to replace it. Probably it's good to give it another name. Put a 2 at the end. CSV. And now we'll save it. Yes. Okay. All right, so we've gotten rid of that problematic line at the end and close that. Now we'll just go back to RStudio. We're going to change our script to load in the new file. Let's see if that gets rid of that parsing error. Great, so that's gone now. We can rerun the script just for a sanity check, make sure we get the same result. Yeah, it all looks fine. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to point out. Another thing is if we now save everything, okay, everything's saved. Now we're going to close RStudio. It's going to ask us if we want to save our workspace image. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that you should never do this. And it might seem weird not to save all the stuff that you've done, but what it's saving, the workspace image, is sort of all of the data that you've created. So all of these things that exist in your session. And you might think, well, that would be great because then I can just open it up and pick up where I left off. But the problem is we're trying to be reproducible here. So basically the only thing we want to keep is the script that produces these things. We don't want to actually keep, in the files, in the original files, we don't want to keep these things that were created during the script, because then things get cluttered and confusing. So I'm gonna cancel this for now, and I'm gonna show you 2 tweaks I want you to do to your version of RStudio so that it doesn't ask you that annoying question every time you exit R. So go to Tools, Global Options, and under the General options down here, it says restore our data into workspace at startup. We don't want it to do that. Okay, we want to always start off with a fresh version of a fresh workspace, an empty workspace. Okay, and then our script will create the things that go into that workspace. If there are files that we want to load, we can load those files in our script, but we're not going to automatically clutter up our workspace. And then here, save workspace to .rdata on exit. Right now it's default to ask. We're going to say never. So we're going to apply that, click OK. Now if we quit RStudio, so you can see these things that are in our environment, they're going to go away. That's not a problem because we have the script to create them again. So they're not there, but I can actually just rerun the script. You can see I have a fresh environment, rerun the script. Aha, error. What happened here? Baby's first names does not exist in current working directory. Well, the thing is, when we restarted our session, it just changed our working directory back to something, whatever the default was. It's not where this file is located. So we can change our working directory, and here's a trick. It opened up the script, so it knows where the script is. It opened that up. We can go here, set working directory to source file location, and it will change to the location where that script is. So now you can see, whoops, probably have to refresh this. Okay, it has those files there. Now it should work. Now let's run this. Control-Alt-R, and now it runs. Okay, so that's something you have to remember when you start it up. You need to change your working directory. Now, I highly recommend that you don't change your working directory in your script, right? You might say, well, I'm just gonna put this into my script, right? So that whenever I open it, it'll automatically set to the right working directory. Now here's the problem. The issue is, if you want to make this reproducible, and you send this script to someone else, they're not going to have this file structure on their computer. They're only going to have this part, right? The folder and the any files within that folder. So basically, they're going to try to run your script, and it's going to fail at the very first line. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You always want to manually set your working directory, right, to wherever the source file is. Okay, right. Okay, so now we're ready to introduce RMarkdown. Now RMarkdown, this is an R script. This is pure R code right here. If there's anything that we don't want R to interpret, we have to make it into a comment by putting a hashtag at the very front of the line. Now an RMarkdown file is different in that you can mix up text that will go into your report with the code, and then you can actually, what you do is you compile the RMarkdown file into a report, and it will run the code blocks and it will replace them with the output of the code. Okay, so this is, as I mentioned, I think in the first part, this is different from like cutting and pasting a graph you made in Excel into a Word document or something like that. It's all contained in a single report, single reproducible report. You can give that RMarkdown file to anybody along with the data files that needed to produce it. They can run that report and they can generate the same results. If they want to change something, they can change something in the text and generate a slightly different report. So it's a good reproducible practice to use RMarkdown to generate your reports rather than doing it in something like Microsoft Word where you have to cut and paste from different programs. So the way you make an RMarkdown file, you go to File, New File, RMarkdown, and it's going to open this little pop-up dialog that gives you some options about what output format you want your report to go in. You can have HTML, PDF, or you can create a Word document. The title, we're just going to call it Scottish Baby Names. author. You can just leave everything else blank and make sure you select document. We can change the output format later if we want. We'll just choose HTML for now. Okay, now it gives you a default RMarkdown file. And this RMarkdown file has stuff that you're going to want to delete and replace with your own stuff. So these shaded areas are code blocks, blocks of our code. Now they're demarcated from the text using these 3 backticks. So 3 backticks followed by an open brace. The letter R basically tells R that this is a code block. This is our code to be interpreted. Anything outside of these 3 backticks is text and will be produced. It will just be sent right out to the report. And the text is in Markdown format. So this is going to be made into a header. This is going to be turned into a link. This text here is going to be rendered as bold in the report. It's going to run these code blocks. It's going to run this code block here. It's going to run that code block there. This one will produce a plot. And echo equals false means the code won't be put in the output, but actually we might want that. So we'll get rid of echo equals false as an option. And then if we want to create a report, the first thing we have to do is save the RMD file. And then we're going to put this actually in the same directory. We'll call this Scottish baby names.rmd. RMD is the extension for an RMarkdown file. We're going to save it. Okay, so that's done. And now we're going to see what happens when we compile the document. The way you compile a document is it uses a package called knitr, K-N-I-T-R. And there's a button in RStudio to basically run the function in that package that will convert your RMarkdown file into a report. So we're going to click that and watch what happens. Some stuff goes on down here, and then we get this report, this pop-up window that has our report in it. So you can see the same text that was in there has been output in our report, nicely formatted. We have the code, we have the output from the code, right? Here's summary, and then here's a plot of pressure. Okay? Now, that's a good starting place, but we're going to want to replace the text and the code with our own code. So we're going to actually take what we did here. Oops, let's change this back to 1998. We're going to want to take this code and put it into the RMarkdown file. And we're going to put that into different chunks of code. So the first heading we want in our output file is setting the scene for the analysis. Okay, so get rid of the text that's here, and we can say the first thing, okay, first we should say, actually let's do this first. Let's make another section called background. This report presents an analysis of the historical trends in Scottish baby names for the top 10 boy and girl names for babies born in 1998. The data set is from, and then we should reference the source, so we're going to put in a link here to that website, which let me pull that up. Okay, website's here. I'm just going to copy this from my browser, copy the link, I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, so that link will go in the output. So now setting the scene for the analysis, what we probably want to say here is what we're going to do next. First, we are going to load in the add-on packages that we need. And then our first block, our first code block here, we're going to copy in these first 3 lines from our script. Okay. Now you see there's a little button here on the right. that will actually run that little code block. If you click that, this button will run all previous chunks in the source file. This is the first chunk, so it doesn't make sense for this one. Actually, there is this one that sets options in the beginning. This, by the way, this line of code sets the default when you create the report for the code to appear in the report. So the default is that it won't appear in the report, just the output of the code. But this makes sure that the code will appear, and that's useful if you're handing in an assignment so that the teacher can see your code. So you can just leave that as it is. Okay. So we set the scene. We're going to load in the add-on packages that we need. Now let's load in the data. So make a new block, a new code block here. Actually, let's delete the rest of this. Okay, and we can insert a new code block by going to Code Insert Chunk, or we can just press Control-Alt-I. Control-Alt-I inserts a code block. We'll go here, pull this in, copy, paste. Okay? We might want to say here, note that we deleted a stray line at the end of the file with copyright information because it was giving us a parsing error. Right, so that will read in the data. Okay, what was our next step? The next step is to pull out the babies born in 1998. And, oh, I can already see a mistake here. We're getting the top 5, not top 10. Sorry. So let's change that. Okay, we'll go back down here. Let's pull out the top 5 boy and girl names from babies, for babies born in 1998. So we add another code block, and we're going to paste in this line that performs that action. Okay, next, what are we doing next? Next, we call this top 10, but the variable name doesn't really matter, even though it's top 5. Okay, next, let's get these names, or let's get the full historical information for these 10 names. So we put in the code block, we paste it in. Let's just save that. Okay, and finally we make the plot. Finally, let's make the plot. Maybe we want to make this its own section and make a code block, paste in the plotting code there. Now, let's save it. Now, it's taken us a long time to get this far, to finally get to this point where we can make a plot. I think some kind of celebration is in order. So let's print some kind of celebratory message at the end of our report. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a function from a package called cowsay. We're going to make sure we load in this package. Now, cowsay is just a fun package that allows you to make animals and other things produce ASCII messages. And what we're going to do is we have to decide on a message, and the creature that we want to produce the message, we want to have a bunny holding up a sign, so the creature is a sign bunny. And we want some inspirational message here, celebrating the fact that we're able to produce this, our very first graph in R. So something like, oops, we did it. How about that? How about hashtag? Hashtag Woot. All right. So let's save that. And let's compile. So we're going to click knit HTML, cross our fingers. A whole bunch of stuff is going to pop up here. And voila, here we have it. Scottish baby names, right? Has a link. If we click this link, it'll take us to the site where we got the data. Set the scene for the analysis. So you can see load and dplyr. These are the messages that came up when we loaded dplyr. Readr, ggplot2, calce. Now we load in the data. This is what came out when we loaded the data. Top 5 boy and girl names, and this is that section. Makes a plot, prints out our pretty plot in the result, and then finally, celebration, a little bunny holding up a sign saying, "Woot, we did it."